Getting the spirit in the dark. I'm getting the spirit in the dark. People moving, oh, we're grooving. Just getting the spirit in the dark.
Yes, indeed. And I want to say, hotep to all of the people out there. Thank you for coming to the Original Titan channel. I'm excited today. Today we have our guest, Goddess Epitome. The Blue Galactic Knight is here with us to talk about her experience with being in the dark for her 7-day journey. But before we get to that, I want to say welcome to everyone. Please hit the like button right now. I want you to be able to share these videos and also subscribe to the Original Titan channel. Just click. You can get be in the know for when we're getting ready to do something. You can also see this particular video on www.theoriginaltitan.com website, along with other videos, other lectures, and everything that we have over there in the cosmic community. I want to also state too that the Original Titan did do a series of Being in the Dark with mimics of very own High Priestess, Mayat M. Makaru Amen. That was last year at some point, not quite 2 years ago. but we did two double series on that, and you can go back in the archives on this channel and hear about that. But I wanted to ask and welcome a Pedipi here. You might want to unmute and want to say Hotep to you also. Thank you for coming on my channel to give us your experiences. That means a lot to me. I've known you for at least a year now, and you're a blessing to be, to be in my life, because you are my occult. I am the mirror, and the blue
Yes.
knight is my occult, and I think I'm yours also. So
Yes.
that's our
Yes.
secret power that we have.
Mhm.
So at this time, I know that you have some things to share with us. You have, I want to start off the whole series by asking, what made you want to go into the dark to experience that? And I'm going to mute my camera.
All right. Well, greetings to everyone. Um, it is an awesome thing to be here at this moment of time to share with you my 7 day, my 7 days of being in the darkness. And what inspired me to do it was that not only was the opportunity presented to me, but also it is just another notch or another step in elevation toward my spiritual growth. And my ancestors had inspired me along the way because this is something that is so ancient. It's not just something that just came about or something that Hollywood or man has developed, but this is a natural experience that comes directly through from within, and it's something that we all have within us. So having the opportunity to actually learn how to bring about this experience of being in the dark and releasing the DMT to have the ultimate experience of connecting with opening up the Akasha and also connecting with ancestors and connecting with other beings on higher planes and higher dimension uh, really just kind of just came home to me. And so I have done some research in the past and also heard from other people through either their own personal experiences about experiencing going into the dark and having that release, having that power come from within, and letting that power just go from that from within and out to create uh, more of a healing. It's more healing than it is anything because it truly goes in and balances things. The healing takes place the very moment that you start going into the dark, releasing the ego, first of all, because the 7 days is just not all 7 days of the DMT release from the pineal gland, but it is a process of releasing the ego, releasing all the things that have caused you to hold back from experiencing something so um, miraculous. So that is where I'm at today. That 7 day journey began days before I start going into the dark from day one. And it has been 2 weeks since I came out of the dark. And I must say that it continues to have an effect on me on many levels. Talking about that first eye, because it's where it all begins. Having that eye opened to receive um, more spiritual awareness, um, seeing things that you didn't see before, um, things just happening around you. I've, I've had some experiences recently where I don't even feel like I'm here. It feels like I'm still in the dark somewhere. and it's an awesome feeling. It's an awesome thing to take on because it removes it removes things that really slow a person down from the conditions and from the things that have become a part of the world we live in, the societies and the way of life, the ins and outs. This allows you to really get a fresh start to say, this can be done. And so the 7 day journey, started before the first day in the dark, and then coming out of the darkness on the seventh day. Um, oh my goodness, it was just a total awakening because, first of all, talking about your senses, your five senses, six senses, it all is adjusted, and um, you learn to rely upon the things that are taken away, like the vision, my ability not to see, uh, things like my sight, like my hearing, my smell, my taste, my feel, and my sense of just relying and relaxing and letting go and letting the great, great spirit of cosmic mother to take over. And so, yes,
That sounds wonderful.
such a great feeling. And I'm still, after 2 weeks, I'm still having effects of that little, little spurts of release of the DMT.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
And then you, as the blue galactic knight, on top of it, your archetype actually exemplifies the power of abundance. Okay,
Yes.
so you're talking about the abundance of the great mother coming in and to give you that security,
Mhm.
taking away inhibitions, allowing you to really get into it from an objective point of view, not being so caught up into all of the illusion, right, that we tend to go
Right.
through. And you also have the action to dream. So for a blue knight to go into the dark, to me,
Yes.
it's personification of uh, what it is that's going on. Now, the intuition. I wanted to ask you this because you do have the essence of intuition, and anyone who falls under the blue knight as a whole. Can
Yes.
you tell a difference in your intuitive ability since being in the dark and then coming back out here?
Yes, I can. It's I have such a keen awareness. It's the experience was just, it was phenomenal, meaning that I want more. I'm at that point now where I'm craving more because it is just something that is out of this world, to actually not have to experience DMT through synthetic drugs. DMT, the release of the DMT, it is a natural drug. It's a chemical. So there's no imbalance there when there is outside chemicals and substance that are being taken. Then of course it elevates, and it brings about a sense of being out of the body, but it doesn't last long when drugs and other sources are used. And um, so, being a dreamer, as Michelle Kin 258 mentioned, my archetype is the Blue Galactic Knight. I'm naturally a dreamer. I'm naturally in the dark a lot. My profession is that holistic healer. So I spend a lot of time in the dark, with, either in massages or massaging, or in with Reiki or sound healing therapy, or just meditation. So it's second nature to me to be in the dark and to receive it. And I tell people I walk in the dark, and most of us are in the dark I would say 80% of the time. We have light 12 hours in the day, and we have dark 12 hours in the night or during the night to the early dawn. But in all actuality, each time you close your eyes, whether to blink it or not, you are in darkness. And we go through the day blinking our eyes, closing our eyes, if it's not just for a second or moment. So being the blue galactic night, it's just a natural thing. But we all dream. This is not just something that's privy to the archetype of blue night, but to all of us. And dream is where 90% of our subconscious awakening is where the reality really is. The other part, the conscious state, is more illusion. And so when you can bring that, kind of flip it the other way around or turn it inside out, where you have more of the 90% in your awakening state, then you're able to really go go in different directions on different planes, different dimensions, and have that experience with not just uh, earthling the earthly experience, but also on a galactic and an astral
Absolutely.
time. Yes, so and it's interesting because these past few days, it's always something that's going on, whether it's coming to me in numbers, or whether it's coming to me in symbols or signs. Things just have been repeating itself. And the vision was the first thing, because I had been in the dark for 7 days, was the first thing for me to really adapt to, is coming back out into the light. I mean, it was painful because for two reasons. Because I had not used my eyes to see or to be exposed to the optical illusions and all the different rays and energies that comes from the atmosphere and the things that actually penetrate through our eyes, like the radioactive. So the light was it was overwhelming at first to have to adjust to it, to where I was like wearing shades and avoiding certain lights even in my home. And that went on for about 2 or 3 days. I did not even go out for 24 hours or more because the light was just too overwhelming for me. I didn't want to lose that. I didn't want to lose that sensation, that feeling, because it was just so magnificent, so powerful, so giving. To have that sense of, I'm actually receiving something that is coming from everywhere, and it's coming from everywhere at once. If you've seen the movie Lucy, and
Yes.
the last thing she says is, the officer asked, where are you? And she said, I'm everywhere. Well, that's the sense that I feel even at this very moment, sharing this with you all, and with Michelle, who has been so gracious to me to allow me this platform to do this. Um, yes, it's
Well, I tell you, what let me ask this question before I know you have something to share with us. I know that you brought along some materials, but I would like to know, what should anyone who was listening to you who wants to go in the dark, what or how should they prepare for that? What's the process on their first time? Because I know we spoke about it before. You were saying that you didn't really know what to expect. So how should one prepare to go into the dark?
okay. So, besides the research, the the thing you want to do is you want to build up the momentum. You just don't want to jump into something like this, because you want to get everything you can out of it from the beginning, and as I said earlier, the process or the first day of the darkness is not really your first day. The first day, that is your first day as far as being blindfolded, and actually everything darkened around you. But within your mind, within your psychic, you're already preparing yourself. And what happens is so much goes on and goes through your mind, like, oh, well, what do I expect? How do I handle this? What if this happens? What do I say? Am I safe? And yeah, so removing all of those fears and removing all those doubts is something that you have to build yourself up to do. But that's where you pull in the sources of the universe. That's where you pull in the sources of everything that you've built your life up to that point. You pull in your ancestors, you pull in your spiritual guides, you pull in people who have supported me. Michelle Kim 258. She's known me for a while, and when I expressed to her about me doing this, she was like, "Wow, you know, do it." So it's preparing for it. Just go into it, do your research. There's a lot of information out there, and I would probably say about 90% of it is a bunch of stuff, and it's people's opinions. Some people who have gone through this, everybody's experience is going to be different.
Okay.
So there is a name, Dr. Rick Stressman.
Hmm.
He called the DMT the spirit molecule. So that's Dr. Rick Strassman, Strassman. Look him up, research his the articles and the books that he wrote on called The Spirit Molecule. That will give you a lot of information about the different processes for each day and what to expect. Um, so yes, preparing for it. Um, just the person who is going to do it or the people who's going to do this for it, you definitely want to build a rapport with them. And it's very important to have, let people who are closest to you, let them know because they are your support. They are your cheerleaders. They're the people who are going to be there when you go in and when you come out. And you want to be able to get their energy and the prayer. I had people who were praying for me. They said, I'm putting some light around you. People are like, oh no, I would never do that. You're crazy, what have you, so and so and so on. But knowing me and having understanding about who I am and my path and my walk, they're like, oh yes,
Hmm.
do this not only for yourself, but do this for me. We want to hear about it. Do this for whoever you need to do it for. So the preparation, and I don't know if I answered the question
Yes, you did. Hmm.
correctly, but yeah, it's like building on something. Like if you want to, you're out in the wilderness and you're camping out and you want to build a fire, if you don't bring the wood with you on the trip, then you're going to have to go out, you're going to have to go and find some lumber, you're going to have to go find some wood. It's a process, then you're like, hey, I don't know if I'm going to have in any encounters with any wild animals out there, so you're going to take something that's going to protect you. But before you take any type of step like that, most people usually go into some type of prayer, some type of meditation, some type of chant, something where they can come and surround themselves with that energy. So that I would say would be the first step. And then once you take that first step, then just step into it. Just step into it. Our
Absolutely.
ancestors, our ancient ancestors, this is how they build pyramids. This is how they travel the world before anyone else did. This is how they did things. This is how they astral travel. This is how they travel, on different dimensions. This is how they travel to different planets, and back and forth.
Yes.
And we are definitely those people. And when we tap into this and we let it release naturally, then we come into our power. And that power is something that is unstoppable. It
Mhm.
really is. It's transferred from one to another. And when you open up that first eye, when you open up that DMT starts to flow, oh my goodness. And I hope I have a chance to share some of that with you, my experiences.
Oh, definitely. What did you bring with you today? As I understand, you did write some things down while you were in the dark,
Oh,
and
yes.
that you want to share. So
Hmm.
you should be able to see the controls there where you can share your screen. I'm once again going to take my image off the screen so we can center on what you wrote, and then you can explain it from there. And I will mute the mic. But before you do that, is there any way that say someone wants to contact you, ask you questions because they like what you're saying. They might not go
Hmm.
straight to Dr. Rick Strassman. They may not go straight to Maya M. Makaru, Amen, the high priestess, but they might
Hmm.
feel like, wow, she's really giving, saying what I want to hear. I'm interested. Do you have a
Yes, I
email
have some.
address?
Okay, I will give the email address and the name of the person who put me through the dark
Mhm. Okay.
to acknowledge him and to give him credit. And he has um, his name is Irasha Ben Ali. Irasha Ben Ali, and that's Irasha Ben Ali, and his email address is abbaatman. That's ABBAATMAN @gmail.com. And he began this process of putting people in the dark. His own experience was in 2006 in southern Mexico. Um, and my information, how I can be reached, is through my email or my website. I'll give you my email. It is Adria um, at iamhealed.therapeutics.com. And it's Adria, Adria, at I am healed therapeutics, therapeutics with a K and not a C.com.
Okay.
And I can be reached through email um, with that.
That's a good start. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my picture off here, and then you can be able to share your screen for what, and
Okay.
just explain what it is that we're seeing.
Okay. Right. So I encourage you or anyone to take a sketchbook into the dark. Now, someone will probably think, well, what do you need with a sketchbook if you can't see what you're drawing or what you're writing? Absolutely. That is the whole point. You can't see, but you can feel. And to be able to actually do something like this here, it's just a tool. That's all it is. And it also gives you something to do uh, while you're in the dark. And that's what I did. My first 3 days was mostly sleeping. I dreamed a lot. Um, so day one, day two, I really didn't start having anything happening, especially the DMT release. That didn't come until day five. But day three, I did have an awesome day three going into day four. I had an awesome experience, and that was I had a dream, and it was me. Uh, so at this point, day three, I've pretty much have released, thinking I've released my ego. I let go of worried about, who's calling me, if my family's okay, what's going on with the inauguration, is Trump this and that, and what's happening in the world. I just, did I pay my electric bill? So everybody in the dark, I just had a lot of things. I had a lot of things that I was going through. But finally, day three, the dreams and things just really started to come to me. My first experience was I re-entered uh, my mother's womb. So I went back through the birth canal, and it was interesting because it looked just like that. It was a tube, and it was red. It looked like it was very fleshy. And the tube, as I was entering into it, it was pink and red, and I had no idea. I knew I was going through something, but I didn't know what it was until I came out. And when I came out, I was in a sack of uh, the embryo fluids, and I uh, forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong.
No,
Uh,
you're doing fine. I'm just amazed. You could continue.
and so here I am, this embryo uh, inside of this sack, inside of my mother's stomach, and I'm not only in the sack floating in this fluid, but and that I can see myself floating. And I was not quite a fetus because I could see through the veins of my hands, or what looked like my hands. I could see the veins in my head and parts of my body, and I was curled up, and I had the connection of uh, the umbilical cord attached to my mother. So only thing that I'm seeing at the time is just me in this sack, this protective sack, and I'm kind of just happy to have this sense because I'm viewing it from a outer sense into a world that I never thought I would experience. So being in this sac in my mother's stomach, in her stomach, and it was so I'm not only talking about the darkness. The darkness is a triple darkness because of the different levels. Because out of the darkness comes the light. And then so that's where the duality comes, the balance of dark and light. Um, and then you have the cosmic egg, which is the darkness, which is the mother, uh, the whole. And so I'm looking, not only am I in this sack, but I'm also looking out into the universe, and I could see nothing but darkness. So not only am I in darkness, but I'm seeing little specks of light here and there. And I don't know if that was just something that was the synopsis or the energy pulses that my mother was was giving to me or receiving from my mother's, um, just from her body. But I felt love, and it was cool. It was very cool. The feeling, the sense, I wasn't cold, although I'm in this sack of water. I felt amphibious, like I'm breathing underwater type of thing. And that was such an incredible experience to go back into my mother's, go back into her body, first of all, and then it opened up to me sitting there, just floating there,
That's
if
powerful.
those floating in space.
That is
So
powerful.
that that just, and then I woke up. I truly believe that I did. Um, I wrote down that experience, but I want to share this. As you can see, I wrote on top of it because I was thinking I was writing it on day 3. And so it looks like it's scribbled, and it is, because the other writing, which is in the green, was actually day 4. So
Yeah,
that's what happens when you're in the dark. And I'll explain day 4 to you in a minute. But yeah, so that's what happened in day 3 for me. I did also, I believe it was day 2, I wrestled with someone in my dream, and this person I don't know. her personally, but I'm like, why am I wrestling with this person? So I think it was just a release of something, maybe something that was coming in and going out, or I don't know, but that was neither here or there. That was just something that maybe I had to just get through and get over.
Who
But
won the
yeah,
fight?
uh, but yeah, so let's see. Yeah, that was. I think that was just really something that I don't think I could have ever experienced unless I was going through something like that, and I needed to make that connection with the mother, and
Okay.
especially with my mother,
Mhm.
and it was just simply amazing.
It sounds amazing. It makes me want to think about preparing to go in the dark.
Yes,
And I know I
yes.
eventually will. I
Mhm.
don't know at what point, but eventually I know I will end up in the dark too.
Yes, yes. That was day 3. Day 4 was that's where the green comes in, as you can see on the board.
Hmm.
Um, and that was something else. That was day 4 is I had made contact, or they had made contact, I believe, with ancestors. But that experience was not a pleasant one because it was these ancestors, they they appeared to be all deceased because they were all same color. You know how the body, once the body dies and it takes on a color, it goes from being a light color to a dark color. And then from that point on, it's just everybody looks the same color. It doesn't matter what color you are, what race you are, we all go back to black.
Right.
It's amazing. But I had entered, I was on my way to uh, um, my brother and I and a sister, we were on our way to church. I thought I was going to a funeral, but it was actually church. But once we arrived, we were all dressed in white, and even the car we were in was white, and even the church was white. And but the church was an old schoolhouse, and it was familiar because it was a schoolhouse that my mother went to school in when she was a little girl. My mother has transcended, and my mother will probably be about 90, close to 90 years old if she was still living. Now, this is a schoolhouse that not only did she go to, but schoolhouses that her aunties and uncles. So we're talking about maybe schoolhouses over 100 years old, if not older. And so we entered, and when we entered it, I went in one direction, my brother and sister went in another. And so, but the church, everybody's dressed in white, and just the bodies of these, it's mostly men, and they had square bodies and little tiny heads. And all of them looked alike. But I sat next to this woman who was considered, I guess, Big Mama. So when I entered the church, everybody had these big old giant Bibles. I mean, huge, probably about the size of this book, if not thicker. And so I'm like, yep, these are my ancestors. But I sat next to a woman, and she was considered Big Mama. But when she turned to look at me, because I placed my hand on her leg to, like a sign of endearment. But when I placed my hand on her leg, my hand was really small. It was tiny, like a little girl. And so that was like my 4th day, and I kind of just drew some lines, to represent the pews um,
Wow.
that they were sitting in. And then on the bottom, I don't know if you can see this right here.
Mm-hmm.
It's two identical objects, but they were actually twins. And but they were they took on like they were deformed. The eyes was messed up, and they had their tongues hanging out, and I'm like, what is that all about?
Right.
So, but it took me back to a childhood experience, because it put me in the place of, we people, we all carry secrets, but it's a time where it's been times where our relatives, our loved ones, our grandmothers and grandparents, they had to do things that they had to do. So when I saw these two images, I first thing came to my mind is like there was a lot of abortions, there was a lot of miscarriages that took place, back in the days. And a lot of these things took place out in the fields that they were working in. Women having babies out in the fields, women having miscarriages, so on and so on. And that's what came to mind because a lot of kids were born with deformity and mental retardation. So that related that to me, that it was just a time, and just inbreeding too. When melanated people have when different races come together, there could be a slight or um, some deformation there, and because of the DNA, or because maybe the blood, or maybe because the close relationship, cousins marrying cousins, and so on and so on. So that's neither here nor there, but that was my experience that I took out of that. So I'm like, oh my goodness, when I thought about it and drew it and everything, I'm like, oh, please let me have some better experiences, in the dark. And it did. It got it got better from there. So that was day 4. Day 5, um, that's when the DMT, um, that's when I had the release. I believe that it released between day 4 and day 5, because it just doesn't release. It releases when it releases, not just when you're in your awakened state and you're walking around and doing things, but as you're lying down, as you're sleeping. And that's what started to happen for me. Um, I just, my experiences was just phenomena. I when it starts to release, it's releasing, because it just takes over your whole body, takes over your whole senses, and you start to just become elusive. I mean, what I mean is that you just feel like you're drunk. You just, you know, and everything moves in slow motion. Your body, but it really is just a physical that you think is moving in slow motion. But what it is, the DMT, the release of that chemical. And when it releases, the cerebral cortex, you know, it's releasing down your back, down your spine, it's releasing throughout your extremities and your blood and in your body. You feel it, it just takes over. And the release of it, it you can see, you think you can see what's in front of you. So I I'm in the dark and I'm doing my hands like this here. So I can feel the motion of my hands, but it just everything was just like slow motion, even my speech. And the second time it happened, I was eating, and I it just seemed like it just took forever for me to put the food in my mouth. But what takes over you is just a sense of peace, like the peace that you feel when everything is secured around you, and you take a deep breath and you know that everything is going to be okay. The world is just whatever happens, you're not even in tune to that. You're just in a outer dimension. But this is more of an inner dimension for me. And I, I even tried to feel the ground beneath me, but couldn't. I felt suspended, and I felt a sense of like I was being moved through the universe and moved around, but in a motion where I'm able to perceive that. And when I say perceive, because I can't see really. And just my hearing became so sharp, so keen. Even feeling the air around me, it became cool. And I'm like, wow, this is something else. I mean, if you could, because I'm very expressive and I could hear myself. And the person who was in the who put me in the dark, he was cracking up at me. And I'm like, why are you laughing? You know, everything slow motion. And I'm like, oh, I know I got to be some sight, some kind of sight. And that's exactly the way it was in my awakened state. It happened 2 or 3 times. And there's nothing you could do. I'm like, I was even afraid to move. I just sat there and just took it all in, experienced that feeling. And and it's like when you put cold water, or it's a feeling like cold water running on you or running down your back. And then the water goes from cold to like lukewarm. So it becomes comfortable. It wasn't a shock. It was like, wow, I've just been brought into something that I've never felt before. I'm in a totally different energy field. I'm in a totally different dimension. I'm not even here on
Right,
planet Earth. And in the space, it just felt like there was no ground beneath me, and
wow.
that I was just
It was out of your body, probably, and just
out of my
enjoying the
body. And I'm
feeling.
like, oh, I like this.
Mm,
And so, yes, that's what I experienced. And what was taking place was the healing, the sense that I'm okay. I felt protected. I felt nothing but love. Talking about the love of the mother,
yes,
talking about the love of the darkness. There's nothing to fear. It's just all embracing and encompassing and just soothing and soft and warm and just, you know, talking about releasing your inhibitions and all the
right.
things. Wow, you have none. You are you totally void of that. You are actually embraced by the mother.
I tell you, this is a beautiful testimony, and you know, I know that the people out there are probably saying, "Hey, I'm going to go in the dark," because if we need that at any time, it's now. With all of the madness that's happening around us, that we
Oh,
know it's
yes,
illusory, it's important for us
most
to go
definitely.
back into ourselves, our real true self, and get that
Hmm.
energy from the great mother, like you say,
Oh,
that feminine
yes,
energy,
that
right?
feminine
And
energy. Yes.
and finish our work. And I just want to say I appreciate so much you coming on this particular platform to bring this information, okay? Because no one else is really doing it that much that I see, okay? I know that it's here now. Those of you out there that are listening, please contact her. She gave her information. We're going to give it out one more time because it's almost an hour. We have been talking and listening
Oh, wow.
to the great Blue Knight, a pepper to be. We appreciate you. Just one more time, if you can,
Thank
just give out
you.
your
Hold the point.
information.
Okay.
Yours will be just good enough. I'll make sure to put everybody else's in there
Okay.
for the end to go at the bottom. You can just look at the bottom and find out who you contact to get ready to go into the dark so that you too can be empowered. Like we see our
Okay.
sister here, totally empowered,
Yes.
getting ready to go
Yes.
back in the dark. You know, so
Awesome.
let us
Yes.
let
Most
us
definitely.
listen, hear from her, and we feel your spirit. You're a beautiful person. We can feel all of that energy coming this way. So
Thank
what is your
you.
address, email address again?
Email address is Adria, Adria dot, I'm sorry, Adria at I am healed therapeutics.com.
All right. And that's good enough. I'll put all of that down at the bottom where they can just see it and possibly just cut and paste. So I want to say thank you again. And if you do go back in the dark, I want you to come back again and tell us, you
I
know, the
will do
difference
that.
between the
Yes.
first time and then the second time. And then I'll probably get on here and tell my experience when I get ready to go into the dark too. So
Well, thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Michelle, Ken 258.
Thank
You
you.
are awesome. And I appreciate you.
And
Yes.
hey, it takes one to know one. So we're gonna leave it at that, people. We're gonna say adios. Please share these videos. Put them on your, you know, on all your social media if you have it. I know those that are coming off. Hey, I get it. But we want to get this particular information out because we're living in these times now where we have
Yes,
to
we are.
really know our power, really know who is on our side. It's awesome to have the universe on your side and know it. And you don't have to worry about any AI, any vaccination, any type of people coming to brown you up. You know, this is
Exactly.
illusory. You can think them away. All right. So with that said, we're gonna say peace to the God.
Rise, Sally, rise.